Good day to you and your soccer fans. The Women's World Cup is in full swing down under in Australia and New Zealand. We will catch you up on how top teams like the USA have fared thus far. And plus, it is a good opportunity to talk about the latest news in the transfer world, including two of the biggest strikers right now. We will cover all this and more on the supporter section. Grab your scarves. We start right now. Well, welcome into the supporter section. I am Cole Carter, and this is episode 74 of the Supporter Section podcast. And welcome back, everybody. We've returned from our summer break of sorts and are so happy to have you tuned in with us today. I have my two great friends and soccer aficionados here with me, Brandon Patesnick and Stephen Curl. Guys, it is so good to have all three of us back together in this studio. And I just want to say, what are we wearing today, Steve? Get us started. What's on your chest right now?
Yes. In accordance with what's going on now with the World Cup, I'm sporting a U.S. jersey. It's a Weston McKennie jersey on the back. But yeah, supporting the U.S., making it through the round of 16, getting out of that group.
Brandon, what's on your chest today?
This is the Germany long sleeve away kit it's the men's away kit from this World Cup in Qatar. The women's have actually, I think they're better than the men's. They have the same white and black stripe one, and then their other one, I forget what it looks like. I think it's like green, isn't it? It's like green and black.
It's like green and black, and from the top, it's supposed to mimic like the forest of Germany is the idea.
Yeah. It looks really good. They have some really good kits. A lot of really good kits in this Women's World Cup. Some I'm still waiting to see, like Spain's. But yeah, I'm rocking Germany tonight.
And to plug another channel on YouTube, the Kit Breakdown, they always do great stuff about all the kits. They just did their Women's World Cup one. Check it out. I've got my 1920 Tottenham away kit. I could have worn a national team jersey, but today I was feeling Spurs today.
Feeling different.
Yeah, always have to stand out in the crowd. But also wanted to briefly say, it just feels good to be back, doesn't it, guys?
Oh my God. I was, someone needed to say it. I am so glad we're back. It's nice to see both of you again. I think the last time we came together was just Cole and I. So Steve, really glad to have you back. And I'm ready. I'm very excited to talk about the Women's World Cup.
Well, let's go ahead and dive on. And let's give you a brief breakdown of what happened in the previous World Cup. We had a final that was contested between the United States and the Netherlands. The U.S. went on to go 2-0 over the Dutch, earning their second and fourth overall Women's World Cup title, with second half goals scored by co-captain Megan Rapinoe from the penalty spot and Rose Ravel. So with that victory, the U.S. joined Germany as the second team to win consecutive titles. The team's coach Jill Ellis at the time became the first manager to win two World Cup titles, and also the first in 81 years since Vittorio Pozzo achieved that result in 1934 and 1938 with the Italian men's team. At that point, each finalist was a reigning champion of their own respective confederation, with the U.S. having won the 2018 CONCACAF Women's Championship and the Dutch having won the UEFA Women's Euro in 2017. At that point, the U.S. was led by Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe. We just cruised through the group stage. If you guys remember that 13-0 defeat of Thailand, just a goal parade. But we were tested by world-class opposition like Spain, France, and England knockout rounds. The Americans found their way, scoring early in each match and withstanding everything their opponents had to throw at them. And obviously, when it came to that final hurdle, the U.S. women's national team lived up to the reputation of being world beaters and took care of the Dutch thanks to those performances we talked about with Rapinoe and Rose Lavelle. Megan Rapinoe did win the Golden Boot as well, scoring 6 goals in 2019. And Alex Morgan and England's Ellen White all finished tied on 6 goals, and Rapinoe and Morgan being tied on assists. So, guys, that was the last World Cup. That was 4 years ago, back in 2019. We've had a lot has happened. A lot of those players have aged. Things have changed in the Women's World Cup landscape. We've added more teams to this World Cup. So let's go ahead and get started as we've been through the group stage. Who are our favorites moving forward from this point in the Women's World Cup? Brandon, I'll start with you.
And I know we didn't get to talk about this before it actually started, but Spain, I think, was my favorite coming in, even though they've had some controversy within their federation within the past, I think, like 2 years with their coaching staff and whatnot. I was expecting, the team has a lot of skill. They have, I think, the best female player in the world. And they're just known for football, right? So I was expecting big things from them, and they really, really did show up. So they were my favorite coming into the tournament. I think I'm going to stick with them going forward as well. They've shown a lot of strength, but their last game against Japan did show that they were far from perfect, losing 4-0. Japan's really good, by the way. They're currently plus 400. Spain is to win the whole thing. So pretty decent odds. I think they're shared for the top best odds. But I will say, like I said, the fact that they didn't even score against Japan does make me worried that they won't be able to break down like a Germany or an England or even like the US's defense. And they might not even be able to handle the attack. Their defense might not be able to handle the attack of a Norway or Germany. So a little worried for that, but they look so good. I love the way they play football, and I'm going to stick with them.
Steven, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going for the US, the USA. I know what you're saying, not really convincing performances. Going into the tournament, though, my money was on this US team, even with the big omissions off this team because of injury, like Tobin Heath, who's my favorite player, who's sitting out right now due to physical and mental reasons that she told The Athletic. Christian Press, injury. Carly Lloyd, retired. Mallory Swanson, injury. Sam Mewis, Becky Sauber, injury. It's like the list goes on and on of first-team players that have had an impact over these past two World Cup cycles. And it may just be that the U.S. women's reputation just got the best of my emotions with this pick, but I still think that they can do it. They're not the favorite so far, at least looking at these first three games that they played. But they're going for a three-peat, which that means they've won the past two World Cups. So I cannot pick the favorites going into this tournament. I'm just going to lean on the leadership of the core players of the team that did make it over to New Zealand and Australia for this World Cup, being the Julie Ertz, the Kelly O'Hara's, Lindsay Horan. I think you've already been able to see what these core players can provide. Alex Morgan, waiting for you. But yeah, I mean, these players have been here before over these past 10 years or so, and they've done it on the biggest stage under pressure. And at the end of the day, we're talking about a team that has advanced past the group stage. So you're where you want to be, maybe not where you wanted to finish in the group, but I still remain optimistic, unlike my fellow Tottenham Hotspurs that I love so much. Not about them. But yeah, I still got my money on the U.S. I think they can figure it out. Hopefully this was the kick in the butt that they needed to get back on track.
Yeah, it's hard not to look at the U.S. and just think about how much talent they still have. You compare them to a lot of these teams, especially a lot of the newcomers, and the talent gap is just so much wider when you add these more new teams, but they still have great talent. I mean, you still have you still have Rapinoe, you still have Morgan. Those leadership, like you mentioned, are still there. But there's still so many great players that are going to be leading your team through. I have no doubts about this team being able to get to at least the final. Obviously, anything can happen in the final. You play great teams like the Netherlands last time, Sweden a couple of years ago. You might even see Japan again. We took care of them in 15. So we'll see what they can do again. I think Rose Lavelle being out in the next round of 16 will be a bit tough. She's a lot of that creative engine in the midfield. We'll see what they can do without her, but I still have no doubts the U.S. can take care of business and this World Cup in 2023. Some of the top players so far, though, we've seen Hinata Miyazawa from Japan. She already has 4 goals in 3 games played. The Netherlands, Jill Roord has 3 goals in 3 games as well. And Lauren James from England also getting 3 goals. I want to say she's also the sister of Reece James, if I'm not mistaken.
She is. She definitely is.
So it's kind of cool to see the two of those getting their chance to star for their national teams. I know Reece has been in the U.S. on the national team or on the tour abroad with Chelsea's team, so it's been hard for him to actually watch his sister play, but a good opportunity for them to shine bright on the stage. 2 of the biggest games I think we've seen so far have included the aforementioned Japan. They dismantled Spain 4-0. Brandon, anything from that one that kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, Spain just looked way slower. Like Japan countered very, very well against the Spain defense and just looked like they were planning to do that the whole game. I think 2 or 3 of their goals came that way. Japan's the real deal. They are really good. I think they've scored the most goals in the tournament, if I'm not mistaken, and haven't let up a goal. Is that right, Steve?
Yep. 0 goals conceded.
So this Japanese team is really good, but shocking that they beat Spain 4-0, I will say. That's maybe the biggest upset, like shocker so far. But then you have the hosts.
Yeah, yeah, getting it done without Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr still hasn't seen the field in the 3 games that Australia has played. She's had a calf injury that she's been nursing, and so now that they've seen their way through the group stage, they should be able to get her involved moving forward the round of 16, hopefully. But yeah, 4-0 against defending Olympic champion gold medalist Canada, who now have seen their flights booked back home early. Yeah, Rosso getting 2 goals in the first half. Fowler and Catley adding things on. An embarrassing display from Canada. We'll talk about them more in a second. But other ones, you see so many goals getting scored. The Netherlands putting up 7 against Vietnam, England 6 against China, Norway 6 against the Philippines, Sweden completely shutting out Italy by 5-0. So we've seen some huge victories that definitely display a lot of these teams that have a lot of firepower. The ones that have been here before showing that they are not to be trifled with. And these are teams that the U.S. especially be looking at down the road who we might have to run into and how we can begin to think about handling them in these knockout stages. But as I said, the biggest upsets, the most surprising team so far that we might even knock down would be who? Brandon, I'll start with you.
I have really enjoyed Nigeria. I've been really, really impressed with them. They came in 4th in their Africa Cup of Nations behind South Africa, Morocco, and Zambia, who are all playing in this World Cup. You can tell that wasn't good enough for them because they have touched this stage with much more fire. They are fun, they are fast, they're very creative, and they have a lot of fight. So what's not to like about that? And they wear it on them. They're so strong and they're so good, and they might have the best pair of jerseys in the tournament. Maybe
Always showing out Nigeria.
some really good kits from Nike there. But beating Australia 3-2 is definitely their highlight of the tournament so far. Beating the host, it was a really good game actually. So go back and watch it if you haven't. They're also undefeated going into the round of 16. I think they might have topped the group. I'm not entirely sure. I also want to highlight their best player, Asisat Oshoala. She's a striker for Barcelona. Her honors feature Champions League title, 3 African championships for Nigeria, back-to-back titles in China, a women's FA Cup in 2016 with Arsenal. She won BBC Women's Footballer of the Year in 2015 with Liverpool. So she's stacked. She's really good. She loves the game, and she's going to lead this team forward if they have a chance of moving on from round of 16 into quarters, semis, whatever. Fun fact again about Nigeria, though, they've been to every Women's World Cup since 1991, but only once have reached the quarterfinals. So I think this 28-year-old Oshoala is going to be the difference for them if they're going to get there again.
That's a good word. Moving on, Steve. Who do you got?
Man, I'm going to be talking about Mina Tanaka and Japanese company. Goodness gracious. We talked on it earlier. They're perfect. They're 3-0. They've won all 3 games in their group stage. They have not let up any goals, and they have scored 11 goals, most in the tournament right now. And they came into this tournament, FIFA World Rankings right now have Japan at number 11 in the world. So maybe not quite an underdog, but outside looking in, definitely if you were to ask most people on picking favorites before the tournament started, Japan probably wasn't on most people's list. Just talking about that 4-0 win over Spain is a clear indication of what they bring to the table. So that's easily my biggest surprise. The U.S. has a high probable chance of facing them if we end up moving past Sweden in the round of 16. So that's going to be a game we got to make it there first, but that's going to be a wild game to watch if that does take place. But another shout that I wanted to give is to the Reggae Girls of the Caribbean, the Jamaican team, coming in to this tournament, ranked worldwide at number 43, according to FIFA. What did they do in their first World Cup game this year? Oh, they just drew against France. They got a result against France, which is absolutely wild. He's ranked number 5 in the world. And then after that, they took care of business against Panama, winning their second game. And going into their third game against Brazil, who's ranked number 4 in the world, They have a chance with a draw, just a draw against Brazil, to knock Brazil out of the World Cup and advance to the round of 16. That's insane. And if they win, they could top the group. That's just absolutely wild to me. This is why you love international tournaments, more specifically the best one, the World Cup. To see a team ranked 43rd in the world take out a team ranked fourth, who's played pretty well this tournament. Brazil's had some cool, fun flair, some cool goals, and they look good. So it's going to be a tall order. By no means are Jamaica the favorites going into this game, but when you just need a draw, some fun things can happen. So keep your eyes out for Jamaica to pull off a huge upset.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love hearing about the underdogs pulling through, especially the ones like Jamaica. For me, I touched on it earlier, just going to briefly mention again, is Canada being knocked out early is my big surprise. Tokyo Olympic gold winners had a very poor showing in 23. Coming in, there was a little bit of controversy surrounding them. The Canadian Federation had so many financial woes to sort out, and things are looking bleak for the Federation, particularly the women's side, in regards to equal pay, the players, the coaching staff. Everything has just sort of been a mess, and now they have early tickets back to Canada. Certainly was not their goals coming in. This is a team that's shown to be strong in the past, and really fell flat short in New Zealand and Australia in 2023. But the U.S. women's national team, they have a route to the final if they can find a hold on their form. They did start out things pretty well with the 3-0 win over Vietnam. We saw Sophia Smith start to make a name for herself on the international stage. This is her first World Cup. She had 2 goals. One came in the 14th minute, and the second one in extra time of the first half. And Lindsey Horan has shown to be a big piece for this U.S. women's national team. She got a goal in the 77th minute. But guys, I think the one that's really important was the goal that she got against the Dutch in the 62nd minute. That one was to draw level and make it a 1-1 game against the Netherlands. And then we saw last night, deep into the morning at 3 a.m., a scoreless draw was pivotal in some ways, but maybe is the writing on the wall. Potentially, we'll talk about that in a second, of what we might come to expect. This is the first time ever the women's team has not won at least 2 group stage games in the World Cup. So I want to know, guys, let's just go ahead and think. How are we feeling about the broad view after 3 games into this World Cup about the women's national team chances to lift the trophy? Steven, I'll start with you this time.
Yeah, I'll be a little bit brief because I've already talked about them a little bit, but not great. I'm really resting on our laurels here of being the champions of the last 2 World Cups, but I think it's not looking great right now for the U.S. women's national team, even when advancing to the round of 16. Julie Ertz even said after the last match against Portugal that being asked if this felt like 3 points dropped, she said, yes, absolutely. We need to be able to put 3-4 goals in the back of the net, and they just aren't. So I'm nervous. I'm definitely nervous. I'm not as confident as I've been in years past watching this team play. But I mean, we have talent and we're deep. So that's also what I rest on. Experience, young players like Sophia Smith. So I'm feeling like a slight thumbs up, very slightly, towards this U.S. women's national team headed into their match versus Sweden.
Brandon, what's your gut reaction so far?
I think we're lucky to get out of the group, to be honest. It was a favorable post bounce from being, us being knocked out in the group, which I don't know if that's ever happened. So Portugal almost had us. And if I would have woke up to the U.S. women's national team losing to Portugal, oh my God, Twitter would have had a field day. Let's just say that.
Oh God.
So yeah, sorry, X. Do I need to call it X now? Sorry, call. So I don't know what's going on with them. I think they're competitive, at least, right? I don't think they look awful. They're competitive. We only gave up a goal, so that's another good thing. Like, the defense was one of the things we should have been worried about coming into the World Cup. They've withstood, right, everything, basically. 2 good teams in the Netherlands and Portugal. So we just need to find the back of the net, like you said, Steve. And that's where our best players are, I think. You have Alex Morgan who needs to put the ball in the back of the net. I'm just worried if we get, against Sweden, it could happen in this next round. Like, our chances might be few. So we really need to capitalize. Sophia Smith's going to come up big, I think. And I'm really hoping Rose Lavelle, us missing Rose Lavelle, doesn't come back and kill us. So I'm worried about that.
Yeah. How do you gauge, Brandon, on the side of the media? Do you feel like, all those people that have been in the World Cup before, people that have been following for a while, do you think that they're think it's all doom and gloom thus far?
Yeah, people are jumping on the team. And it's a lot of like previous players too, which I don't know if there's something there, like as they were being phased out and this new era was sort of being phased in, if like there was a weird tension. It's a different coach too. Like Jill Ellis, that's her name, I think, is no longer the U.S. Women's National Team coach. So, it's sort of like a new era for this team. I think it's fair to put criticism on this team because I think we're all seeing it. They're competing, but they're not to the level that is expected of them. So I think it's good to have these high expectations. What I will say is we did not go out, so we're in the next round. There's a chance. There's a chance for the U.S. to turn it around. I'm just not very optimistic. I do not think we have it in the bag. Some players really need to step up and start producing. I can go through a list, but I'm not. I'm going to be optimistic and say we really need Alex Morgan, Sophia Smith, Lindsey Horan, and Rose Lavelle to drag us to another title. That if it's going to have to be those four or a combination of some of them because the other people are going to do their job, but they're not going to win it for us, right? So it's going to be two of those four players, all four of those players combining to really get us there. I believe they can. Maybe that's blind optimism, but I think they can do it. But yeah, I think it's fair, all the criticism that they're getting right now. It was not good enough, the group stage. Not good.
Yeah, Steve, what's been like a weak point or something that you'd want to point out on top of what Brandon's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, besides not scoring goals, I mean, to me, criticizing the head coach Flacco, he hasn't been really using those substitutes the way that we thought that. Like the media is crying out towards it. U.S. soccer fans are crying out for him to sub Megan Rapinoe on and chasing a game against the Netherlands, who can make something happen. And a lot of unused substitutions where Jill Ellis actually had a philosophy of never having an unused substitution with this U.S. women's national team. And when your players are looking really leggy out on the field, playing some really high intense games, that's when you need to draw on the depth of this U.S. women's national team. We have a lot of it. And so to not use it seems a little bit silly, but the players in the field have to be good enough in the first place as well. Not to pick on Alex Morgan. I mean, she scored a goal offsides and even had a chance at the beginning of this last game against Portugal. But yeah, to me, it's the fight and the grit, though. Honestly, if I were to put to one thing that I'd like to see more out of this U.S. women's national team, I saw it in a glimpse of Rose Lavelle getting her first yellow card against Netherlands. You started to see kind of the team respond to that, and Lindsey Horan getting into it with the Dutch as well, and then coming back and scoring an amazing header. It's moments like that I'm looking for. And at the end of this last game, it was the whole game was bad in my opinion. Collectively, Portugal looked like the better team on the night, had over 100 more passes, had like 60% possession, and they had the best chance of the night that we mentioned earlier. Was the post. If it weren't for that post, the U.S. women's national team would be in even bigger headlines right now. So, but one thing that I do think will carry this team through this tournament is that experience. Kelly O'Hara, Georgia born, taking the team to the touchline at the end of the game, circling them up, just screaming. I don't know what about, like, let's move this on. She's really just displaying her leadership, being to multiple World Cups. And I thought it was interesting. It's not the coach that's doing that. You're not really seeing a lot of emotion out of Vlatko right now. It's got to be from the players, I guess. I don't know if that's strategic of he wants to see a reaction out of the team. So I don't know. Carly Lloyd had a few choice words for the U.S. Women's National Team, saying that she's never seen. She was reacting live to images of them dancing, taking selfies with fans and uh, family and whatnot. And I'll read the quote. She said, "I've never witnessed something like that. There's a difference between being respectful of the fans, talk about the ones who are traveling out there to see them, and saying hello to your family, but to be dancing and smiling. The player of the match was the post. You are lucky not to be going home right now." So I think there's a balance of not being too doom and gloom, but being self-aware so you can make those changes. And I think this team will be okay. Hopefully this was the wake-up call. The next match is on Sunday at 5 a.m. So I think that's enough time for to kind of bounce back, get their heads right, and just, all right, group stage was behind us. Bad dream. Let's win a World Cup.
Yeah. Well, we talked about all the hard stuff, the things that are going to be, have happened already. But if we're going to look forward to the people that we're going to have to lean on in this tournament, Brandon, I'll start with you. Who are we going to have to lean on moving forward the rest of this Women's World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of jumped the gun on this question already, but Sophia Smith and Alex Morgan are going to need to combine to score some goals up top. Sophia Smith, picked number 1 by the Portland Thorns. She was the league MVP last year. She won a championship with the Thorns. She scored the first goal. I mean, she was a championship MVP. She's an amazing player. She's the next era of U.S. Women's National Team greats. And she needs to combine with the one that's sort of phasing out, and that's Alex Morgan. Famous for her tea drinking celebration, all of that. Like, we need that energy, and we need to put balls in the back of the net. It's going to have to come from them. If it's just them, Haran's going to get in the mix. We know that. That's just how she plays. She plays all over the field. I don't know what position, honest to God, I don't know what position Lindsey Horan plays for the U.S. Women's National Team, because it seems like she's all over the pitch. She plays
here, she's
striker.
there, she's every freaking
She's everywhere.
Yeah.
She's everywhere. So I already know she's going to be fine, but we really need some production of Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan. Also, another player. Oh shoot, what's her name? Trinity Rodman. That's her name. Which she is Dennis Rodman's daughter, by the way, which I found out, which is crazy. She's sitting there on the wing and not producing. She's supposed to be electric. I know she's great, but she hasn't done it yet. I'm waiting for her to pop off. I still believe in her, sort of. She really needs to have a good game against Sweden. Hopefully she'll start, but really needs to start producing. I know I keep saying it, scoring goals. We need some goals. So Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, and talking about Trinity Rodman, one piece of move she had that was good, but it was just slightly late in that offside goal that Alex Morgan had. Even Alex's finish was nice on the outside of the boot. Obviously, just that much offside to not let it count. But there are glimpses. There are glimpses that she can be productive, Trinity Rodman, but we'll see what she can come up with in round of 16. She might still be able to be a hero for this women's team moving forward. Well, let's move on from the Women's World Cup onto our transfer talk. And we've had a little bit of this discussion last time we were on here last month. But Steve, since we have you here today, we've had news all throughout the summer about big name players making the move to Saudi Arabia. The Saudi takeover has been happening, the mass exodus of high-level players to Saudi Arabia. Most recently, we've seen the likes of Sadio Mane and Jordan Henderson this week join the Saudi Arabian clubs. And most notably, of course, this summer was Karim Benzema and N'Golo Kante, Steve. So I need to know from you, is the Saudi League a long-term competitor amongst the top leagues, and how are you finding this mass exodus of players to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I think we've had the same attitude towards the Saudi Arabia probably over the past 3-4 years, kind of like the Chinese Super League. Maybe one player goes to the league, gets a huge paycheck, and we just kind of don't really think about it. But we have to pay attention after this summer. This summer has absolutely been insane. There is so much spending going on in the Saudi Arabian Pro League. To which your question about a long-term competitor, I mean, obviously they're nowhere at the level now, but if they're investing this much money on players that a lot of teams and the Premier League would like to have, as a Tottenham fan, give me Sadio Mane. I want Karim Benzema. If Real Madrid could have another year of Karim Benzema, I'm sure they would take him as well. So, as much as we like to think that players have this kind of desire to keep winning and winning and winning. Money also talks, which has kind of been a little bit disappointing for me as a fan. It something to take note too is a lot of these players are over 30 years old who are moving to Saudi Arabia. We've heard rumors about the comical amount of money that Kylian Mbappe has been offered to join the Saudi league. We saw Messi choose MLS over the Saudi Arabian league as well. Um, but yeah, it's really weird because I'm starting to think more and more like in 5 years' time, if the spending is still there and the investment is still there, and Saudi Arabia, these football owners have more money than any other football owners in the world. Like not even close. I think Newcastle's owners are more rich than every other team in the Premier League putting their finances combined. So it's not a question of money; it's a question of spending. We're seeing it this past summer, um, and who knows? Maybe in 10 years' time, we're talking about Saudi Arabia maybe breaking into that. Maybe they're at the level of the Portuguese league, or maybe they're at the level of the Dutch league. I mean, I don't know. It's really crazy to see the amount of money that's coming out of the United Arab Emirates and the Middle East into taking stars, not washed up players, but stars from these top five leagues in Europe. So it's absolutely wild. I personally don't like it, but who knows? I mean, I'm sure a lot of fans hate the Premier League because of the exact same thing. The amount of money spent, attracting all the players. Why should they have all the fun? I'm sure that's what Saudi Arabia is thinking. And so they're not going to feel bad about it. They're just going to keep buying world-class players to get eyes on their league. So in some way, I'm kind of like kudos to y'all, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You can ask even someone like Javier Tebas, the president of La Liga, and he's been crying lyrically about the Premier League buying up the best players in the world and stuff. And now it's happening in a sort of similar fashion. I think the most controversial ones so far this week have been Sadio Mane, a guy who's had a great career at Liverpool for so long and had one kind of shifty year at Bayern Munich, and suddenly he's being shipped off to Al Nassr. And then you look at someone like Jordan Henderson on the other side of the spectrum as far as maybe not football ability, but more so the human rights part. He's been someone that's been so outspoken about the LGBT community, being someone that stands up for pride, wearing the armband during the World Cup, all these different things. And then suddenly money starts to begin to talk a lot louder than anything that he said before. And it's been interesting to see those things play out. Obviously, people are looking to their futures for their families. And, this term that's being thrown around a lot has been this idea of generational wealth. And players are changing the lives of so many people around them. Sadio Mane has already done so much back at home with his families. And this might even be a bigger move for him. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it from all these different angles, and you do have to be critical. You have to criticize, it's not the best for the sport. This sports washing endeavor that Saudi Arabia has been going on with soccer, and now you're involved with golf, and you look at other things that they're trying to invest in and change, where it's really, it's not the healthiest thing. It's hard to compete for lower league teams. It's hard to compete for even teams breaking through in the Premier League. You look at like someone like Nottingham Forest, the Burnleys, teams like that, where they can't compete trying to spend 35 million, 50 million, 80 million, 300 million for someone like an Mbappe, Messi, whoever you want to talk about. So yeah, it's not going to be sustainable. It's sustainable for the Saudi Arabians because their bank is practically limitless, right? But I have to say it's just continuing to be more troublesome, and we'll see how it affects the likes of UEFA. What are they going to do about the involvement of Saudi Arabia in the future? Are they going to say, completely axing them from any availability in the Champions League? We see Saudi Arabia try to create their own Champions League completely. These are things that we have to keep an eye on because moving forward, things are going to get quite tricky. I know that to be sure. Brandon, anything you want to add on the Saudi Arabian transfer rumors?
I would just say the rumors have been crazy, and the things that have happened are absolutely crazy. The thing that really shocked me, I'm here in Columbus, Ohio. Lucas Del Rayon, Columbus Crew's best player, just got a massive payday. I think he went to Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure. And I was thinking about it. I was like, you know how much of a massive step down that is from the MLS to the Saudi Pro League?
Yeah.
It didn't really hit me until I saw that transfer. And I was like, What in the world? And then you start thinking about Karim Benzema, Ballon d'Or, Karim Benzema, like Real Madrid Champions League winner Karim Benzema, Sadio Mane in his prime, arguably. You can go back even more. Ruben Neves. I mean, there's all these players that are going over there for massive, massive amounts of money. And another thing I noticed, which other people might not be noticing, they've only gone to 5 teams. All the ones you've heard about, all the transfers you heard about have only gone to 5 teams in the league. There's not only 5 teams in the league. I think there's 17 or 18 or something like that. So that's just weird. So it's not like the whole league is benefiting. Not all the owners of those teams are like spending cash, right? Like crazy. So I just don't know what the angle is. I don't understand it. Because like imagine if an MLS team came in and wanted to buy Ruben Neves. That would never happen. Imagine them trying to buy Karim Benzema or Sadio Mane right now. That would never happen. That might not happen in 10 years. And MLS is on a skyrocket trajectory, hopefully. Yeah, I don't really understand. I mean, I know it's money, but now it's just stupid. It's just stupid amount of money. It is just an absolute crazy amount of money that we can't really understand. And it's not this, I'm changing my life with this amount of money. You've been on £1 million a week. Like you will be completely fine for the next 4 or 5 generations. Like you could spend $1 million every day if you wanted to, and you still wouldn't run out. Like, so what is it? What is it? I think, what I eventually think will happen is this Super League is going to come through the Saudis. They're going to propose it. There's going to be a lot of money backed, a lot of TV deals, and we will see another attempt to make a league separate from the Champions League, where maybe it's a world league, something like that. The MLS could get involved. That'd be absolutely crazy, but where it's attracting all of these teams from all over the world, right? Bigger than just Europe. So I don't know, man. It's going to be a weird ride. It's offsetting to me personally, but yeah, I'm just still trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to close things out a little bit, but the domino effect, it feels like on so many different levels. You talk about Sheikh Mansour coming back in 2012, buying Manchester City, him just introducing so much money to that club, the repercussions of that happening. And you start to think about the back end of still being on the pandemic financially of all these teams and leagues that still have not recovered from the pandemic. You look at the likes of Barcelona, La Liga as a whole, Serie A as a whole. These leagues are still grappling with the effects of the pandemic and still trying to get fans back in stadiums and making money and being profitable. And so, yeah, when a team comes in willing to offer buku amount of money for players that, like you mentioned, most are past their 30s and may not be great long-term investments, it's hard to say no to a quick influx of cash. And not even to mention all the ramifications, including financial fair play, teams that we've mentioned like Chelsea and Newcastle, what are they doing to potentially be skirting these FFP regulations to help improve their own financial standing in the Premier League specifically? It is crazy. I don't think it's, like I already said, it's not healthy. It's going to be crazy. I don't think you're far off, Brandon, with the whole Super League idea. I think that's certainly coming. I would probably guarantee almost in less than 3 years we'll see some big ramp up. But it's interesting. It's interesting, and this summer certainly has shown that they are not messing around. They do want to build this league into something special. Cristiano already had his quote talking about how when I came, the rest would come, showing his hubris. Certainly, he got humiliated in some of those friendlies he got to play in this summer. The most notable name that was involved with those transfer rumors was Kylian Mbappe. He's involved in a transfer saga of his own. Perhaps the sport's most sought-after player currently is vying for a move out of Paris. Mbappe is still only 24 years old and has just 1 year left on his contract with the club that has tried all it can do to win a Champions League with their superstar. But in all they're trying, they have fallen short time and time again, even losing a final in the COVID year to Germany's Bayern Munich. So what has kicked off Mbappe's march out of Paris? Well, the aforementioned failure to secure a Champions League title is one thing, but it's also a very well known of the players' mutual fondness between him and the European kings Real Madrid. Mbappe has dreamed of playing at the Bernabeu since he's a little kid, And we all know, we've talked about him many a times here on the support section, is Florentino Perez at the helm of Real Madrid. We know he will do whatever kind of meddling it takes to secure a prize, especially one as good as Kylian Mbappe, even if that means crossing boundaries to pester PSG. We've already talked about or seen PSG this week talk about how they're going to try and sue Real Madrid in any way they can, potentially for the meddling that they've already done. We'll see if any of that comes to fruition. But alongside Madrid's involvement was the new fish in the sea, Saudi Arabia. Their offer that they came into was close to, in total, when it finished at the end of the day, to be $1 billion. Al Hilal offered a 300 million euro proposed transfer to PSG. In addition to this, they were prepared to offer Mbappe a salary package of 700 million euros for how long? 1 year. 1 year, 700 million euros, which would be incredible. And afterwards, if it's just for 1 year, that pretty much would be free for him to assume to take a position at Real Madrid if he so wished. Well, luckily, in some sort of weird kind of redeeming way, Kylian Mbappe actually sort of laughed this offer off. He had a cute little interaction with Giannis Antetokounmpo where he just sent a lot of crying, laughing emojis to Giannis saying, "Hey, I'll go to Saudi Arabia if they want me to for that much money." But he sort of made it clear that he wants to play in the top competitions like the Champions League for his foreseeable future, wanting to stay in Europe specifically. So that brings me a question to you guys from the view of the panel. Do we think Mbappe is going to be a team player for Paris Saint-Germain and play this season? Do we think he's just going to pray PSG sell him to Madrid ASAP this season? Or do we think he'll be a holdout and run out his contract by sitting out the whole year, despite having the Euros and the Olympics coming up, which will be in France? He might even be a player that might be playing in his Olympics, representing his home country. Brandon, I'll start with you. Where do you land on the Mbappe spectrum right now?
This whole thing's been absolutely crazy. I think the understanding was I think he only signed a 2-year deal with an option for himself, I believe, if he wanted to stay in PSG. So the writing was already on the wall that after this contract, he's probably not gonna stay or gonna resign. And I think he's been open and honest about that. So that's good for him. He's sort of just yeah, I'm gonna go to Real Madrid after this contract's up. Unless there's a way for you to convince me, but it's gonna be very, very hard for PSG to convince me to not chase my dreams. I'm the best player in the world. So he's going to play this season. I still think he'll play. I don't think he'll sit out. But now PSG has turned things sour with them trying to sell him, right? So oh wait, you're not going to re-sign even though we thought you would, even though no one thought he would. Oh wait, we're going to try to sell you to Saudi Arabia. So I don't know where those tensions. I mean, there's definitely a lot of tension there, but I think Mbappe was definitely down to play. He didn't say anything different, and then all this stuff started happening. So now it's thrown everything in the mix. I expect him to play. He's too good, too young to just really sit out, especially if he wants to keep chasing those numbers of the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, etc. Yeah, I think PSG's going to get rid of him. They'll have him for the year, and then he'll go on a free, unfortunately, for them.
Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, short answer is I think the same thing. I think he's going to stay at PSG for the entire year. I do think he'll play. He would not just sit out. So he'll play the whole year with PSG. And I believe that he'll leave on a free at the end. I don't think he's going to re-sign with PSG. And the biggest thing to take away here is how poorly run PSG is. Oh my God. Like Brandon said, we all knew the writing was on the wall, but it's no, everything's going to work out. He'll stay, right? He'll stay. He wants to be with me. And it's the guy Mbappe just telling him hey, I'm giving you these years. He's been at PSG not for a season or two. He's been there for the past 4 or 5. And so since joining from Monaco, he's not a well-kept secret. He's not a Camavinga transfer to Real Madrid or whatever it is. Everybody knows he's the best player in the world. He wants to win Champions League. You've done nothing to convince him that that's going to happen in Paris. So why would you expect anything else? PSG is run by a bunch of clowns. Love Mauricio Pochettino. You thought you were going to win the Champions League with him? just let's get Messi, Neymar, Mbappe. It'll work out. No, anyways. I see it potentially. I'll go a little bit different than Brandon though, as far as where he'll end. I could potentially see him getting sold in January. It'd be crazy, but I could see PSG taking like 70 million, 60 million euros from Real Madrid maybe by then. If Real Madrid are looking strong in Champions League, like if they can add Mbappe and win the Champions League, probably way off prize money through UEFA and all of that kind of jazz. I I mean, I don't think it's impossible for him to be sold in January. Um, so we'll see. I don't. I mean, I know there's rumors about other teams, Chelsea, whatever, Bayern, all that kind of stuff, but I don't think Chelsea. Maybe I don't think Chelsea. I hope not Chelsea. As a Tottenham fan, I pray not Chelsea. Um, but yeah, I think there's a chance for him to leave in January. Who knows? There comes to a point with the UEFA payouts of advancing in Champions League is so much money. Why not try and just pay the money to get him early? If I'm Real Madrid, Florentino Perez, so you're also showing the player that you value him a lot, that you'll even spend money, even though you could probably get me for free. You'll spend money on me to win. That's maybe another marketing move to sign him to a long-term deal. I don't know. But if I had to bet money on the situation of how it would turn out, he stays at PSG the whole year and just leaves for free.
Yeah, I think it'll probably play out similar to that Harry Kane situation in 2021, where he'll probably miss the first 2 games, 3 games. Especially he's been not on not on the tour with the team. Going to Japan and then across Asia. He hasn't played at all under the new head coach Luis Enrique. So yeah, I think he'll definitely miss probably a couple of games at the beginning, come back, play a full season, and I think at the end he'll just walk away for free next summer, and it'll be Florentino Perez's dream come true. He won't have to waste $100+ million on this starlet from Paris. So we'll see. I think the links to the Premier League will be hard to come by. Chelsea obviously have the money to do it, but do they have the financial fair play availability? I'm not sure. You look at someone like Tottenham, Man U, in their wildest dreams maybe, but probably not the most viable considering Mbappe's wages and his also interest on his side to even go to a team like that. So it probably, I think, just comes down to leaving now to Real Madrid, waiting. We'll see. I don't think he'll be a Paris player, though, come August of 2024. As I mentioned, Tottenham, Harry Kane has also been linked to a move away from the club. Bayern Munich have been making headlines this summer as they attempt to pry Harry Kane away from the white-knuckled clutches of Tottenham's chairman, Daniel Levy, who is famously a tough negotiator. Levy has laid out behind closed doors that he is not looking to sell Harry Kane, but would consider a deal for the striker if a minimum £100 million offer is to be made. So far, Bayern have made a €95 million ploy, but when converted to pounds, that's still £18 million short of Tottenham's evaluation of their star homegrown striker. So Spurs will also insist including on any kind of deal that's made on a buyback clause should he return to the Premier League in a later deal. But it's been no secret of Bayern's interest that they've been making it a public affair amongst their high-ranked officials and German media, including when a Bild reporter flew all the way out from Germany to Perth on Tottenham's tour with a Harry Kane Bayern jersey and asked the players about the players' move to the club directly to Spurs' new manager, Ange Postecoglou. Ange took it in stride and basically said, "You came all this way for that, mate." And then, of course, that highly inappropriate gesture for any journalist to do has made that journalist banned from participating in any future Tottenham press events. So it has been a whole debacle, a show of infringement from the German media. Bayern themselves have been really, really pressing upon Tottenham. So the question is, what will happen with Kane? The English captain's contract runs out at the end of the upcoming season. Much like Mbappe, it will no doubt be keeping any and all options open for himself if he isn't sold this summer to the German Giants. Kane is obviously planning to stay at Tottenham if no agreement is made while the season starts. He wants to make sure he's settled before any kind of games begin to be played. We're less than 2 weeks away from that, so things really have to get moving if a deal is to get done. But Tottenham, on the flip side, are not setting a deadline at all on his future. They might wait it out now. They might go all the way to the end of the next season when they could potentially start any sort of new contract negotiations to stay in North London. But it's going to be interesting to see what Harry Kane decides. He can stay and be the hero in North London, try and win a trophy, but most notably his record of Alan Shearer's Premier League goal record is not so far away. He could potentially get to that within 2 seasons, 3 if he stays healthy. We'll see, guys. It's really playing out in an interesting way. The Man City one 2 years ago felt like it was also on the verge of happening, but he stayed, and now here we are 2 years later. Steven, you're the Tottenham lad here. How do you assess the situation as it's playing out right now in front of our eyes?
Typical. With Harry Kane, I feel like it's been a question over this player's future over the past 5 years. We've been talking about Harry Kane, right? But I mean, I think he's the benefit that Tottenham has is that Harry Kane is one of the most professional footballers on the planet right now. He will give everything to his club, even though he might want to move away and win trophies. Congrats on winning the Asian preseason tour Tiger Cup, Harry Kane. So, you know, you got a trophy at Tottenham, might as well stay.
It's 2 now.
But yeah, all jokes, yeah, it was the Audi Cup before. So all jokes aside, yeah, if I'm Harry Kane, I'm staying at Tottenham. And not even for the romantic part of it, of like finishing out your contract with Spurs and all that stuff, but I'm staying at Tottenham, but then I can go wherever I want. I can stay in the Premier League. I can go to Real Madrid. I can go to Barcelona, Atletico, Bayern, wherever you want to go in the world. And that's what I would do if I was Harry Kane. You have your options, or hell, you get to see what Tottenham's about. What if Tottenham, they won't. What if Tottenham goes out and buys all these players in January? You find yourselves in the Champions League and you get conned in of a Champions League push again. Like, if you want, you can stay at Tottenham if your feelings change. I don't know. I mean, these players have epiphany moments. Look at Jamie Vardy after winning the Premier League with Leicester. He had his choice to go wherever he wanted, but committed staying at Leicester. Harry Kane, a little bit more high profile of a player, obviously. But the world's your oyster if you wait. And it's one more season. I know he keeps getting told that, but on paper, brother not being your agent, there's one more season that you are committed to playing at Tottenham, and then you can choose your venture. So coming off a 30-goal performance, that's pretty incredible of the last Premier League season, just behind Erling Haaland. So, yeah, I mean, you're comfortable. You can really start planning your future ahead rather than, am I going to be playing in Germany in a month? Like, that'd be stressful to me as a player. I mean, I know these guys are professionals, but you have to take into account so many of these culture shock things, him having children, moving your family over there. So it's whatever he wants to do. But if I were him, I would stay. I could see him staying at Tottenham, scoring a lot of goals, and hopefully getting Tottenham back into Europe.
What's the best thing for Tottenham to do right now, Brandon?
Yeah, I think there's 2 sides to it. It's what's best for Harry Kane, what's best for Tottenham. Harry Kane, I think it is to stay. Finish your contract. No bad things, no bad, blood between Spurs fans and whatnot. And then you could stay in the Premier League and go win something with a Premier League giant and probably eventually break the scoring record. Like that is a perfect case scenario for Harry Kane. I think, like you asked for Tottenham, I don't know why they're not selling him. Let's be real, guys. Tottenham is not going to make Champions League this year. They are just not. It would be very difficult. And the value that Harry Kane brings, and if you think he's the reason that you'll make top 4, could be top 5, but top 4, I sort of understand. 90 million euros is a lot of money for a player on the last year of his contract. That is a lot of money that Tottenham could use as a team and rebuild around a new manager, a new system. Hopefully Postecoglou will be there for the foreseeable future, maybe 3-4 years. That's what you're hoping, right? Harry Kane's not going to be. Sell him, pocket the cash while you can. You got him all the way to the end. You can cash out. And maybe the best part about it all, he's not staying in the league, which Daniel Levy would love. So I don't know what the issue is, completely honest, just from like a outsider point of view. Like, I think Harry Kane would be more upset with the move than Tottenham would be with selling him. So I don't understand it all. Cole, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22. You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You lose the best striker in the Premier League potentially, in Harry Kane, to a team that's far off in the land. You're going to get good money for him, but if he stays and he leaves next year, what kind of legacy is he leaving? I think that if he leaves, you still have Brazil's number 9 on your team. That's an encouraging thought. Let's just say you get the 90 million pounds. You get close to the 100 you want. You get 90 at the end of the day. That potentially allows you to sign a $65-70 million defender that you can replace Eric Dyer with, pair alongside Christian Romero, and that still leaves you money that you probably already going to spend anyways. Throw in 25-30 million from the Harry Kane deal and get another midfielder or attacker, whatever you want to do. Another defender, it doesn't matter.
You can reshape the team with that money.
Right. And again, you still have Sonny, you still have Richarlison, you still have Kulusevski, who you just got on a permanent deal this summer as well. You still have attacking options, even without Harry Kane. You brought in James Maddison. Like, that's still a great Premier League lineup. And if you added on the defensive side, which if you think that's your biggest weakness, then yeah, you actually might have a formula to something to succeed with, especially under a new attacking style of football. So yeah, I think Tottenham's in a case where I think you can really go either way. I think Daniel Levy is smart. I think a lot of people will slander him for all the different things he has done and hasn't done. This reminds me a lot of 2013 with Gareth Bale. Real Madrid was knocking on the door. Gareth Bale was looking for trophies, was looking for something new. And, even then Tottenham fans still weren't sure if he was going to leave. And it came down to August. It came down to those last weeks of the transfer deadline. The deal got done and he set a new record for a player being sold. So I don't think we'll see a new record sold, but I think Harry Kane probably is above 50% going to get dealt before the deadline, if I had to say that. So it'll be interesting to see what actually ends up happening at the end of the day. I know Tottenham fans are on the edge of our seats and hoping that whatever happens, we can trust our leadership that's the best for the club moving forward, especially for these next year, 2 years, trying to get back in Champions League contention. But crazy.
Real quick. We'll finish real quick. So another thing to answer your question of why they're not selling him, Brandon, is Tottenham finished 8th last season with a 30-goal season by Harry Kane. Like, that's scary. I honestly think they're terrified of what will happen. New goalie, like Christian Romero, you can look back on our other videos to see me rant about Tottenham, but without Harry Kane, how good is this team? Where do they finish? It's probably too late now in the summer to actually go out and buy that defender like Cole's talking about. You have to wait till January. You could be so bad off. Like, Tottenham finished it last season terribly. You could not have the coach you just hired, not have your star striker, and you could have riots and protests outside of Hotspur Lane. That's just a reality of, and I don't think it'll, that's a possibility. That's a real possibility. Richarlison scored a goal last year, just one. And so I think there's just that trade-off of, actually it's worth to let Harry Kane go for free to give us more time in our front office to figure out what we're doing. Which is not encouraging. That's kind of my perception of why they wouldn't sell him. But what is this Tottenham team without Harry Kane? You just said they're not making Champions League, even with Harry Kane. Right? You were
it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be difficult, right?
There's a lot of really good teams in the league this year.
It's going to be difficult with how Arsenal spent, Liverpool spent, Manchester United, Manchester City, Chelsea, Newcastle. The list goes on. That's six.
Villa.
That's 6 teams right there. Aston Villa. Where does that leave Tottenham? And I think it's come to a point of desperation of why Tottenham doesn't want to sell Harry Kane. They can't afford to. They've waited too long. And at the end of the day, I think they're just going to hope that they're throwing toilet paper up at the ceiling and that it sticks of, hey, maybe you want to stay? We'll give you £800,000 a week. How about that? And then maybe that's enticing enough. We've talked about how many talks staying at top. I mean, who knows? But I'll finish up. But I think it's a desperation thing for Tottenham as opposed to what will they be if they let him walk, and I don't want to find out. So,
yeah, I think that's a scarier sign of your front office not being prepared to sell players. I don't know. We can talk about Tottenham's situation for an hour
next week.
So I'll leave it there. But I think that's scary that Daniel Levy and the whole board aren't ready to sell a player for a really good fee because they're not prepared to. That's not a good sign. So I don't know. What's scarier to you? I guess the desperation or the front office not being prepared. So,
and that's the conversations being had, I think, behind closed doors, and even between Tottenham fans, is where are we landing right now with our front office? Is it in Levy we trust, or is it still Levy out and Nick out? New ownership needs to come in. But I have opinions on that we could talk about for a long time. But we'll get to that probably in our Premier League preview. And we know maybe a little bit more about the Harry Kane situation and where Tottenham lands and all that. A couple last notes on the transfer side of things. U.S. men's national team players are in new places. McKennie goes back to Juventus from Leeds from that loan. Tim Weah moved from Lille to Juventus for $13.5 million. Christian Pulisic made his move from Chelsea to AC Milan for $22 million. Yunus Musa to AC Milan from Valencia for $20 million. A big move for him. Valencia had a rough season in Spain. Balogun, our newest guy, he has been rumored with Inter Milan. Inter is saying he's too expensive, but Arsenal are trying to offload him. He's not quite going to contribute in this new Arsenal side, it looks like. So he is looking for a move. Brendan Aronson made the move from England to Germany to Union Berlin. And Ricardo Pepi signing for the Dutch club PSV from Augsburg for $9.8 million. So some good moves for these guys. Briefly, just thumbs up. Are we thinking that these guys are making good moves? How are we thinking real quick? Quick answers.
I think I'm moving to Italy just to watch these guys play. What do you think?
My favorite
Paramount Plus will be our hero.
Yeah, my favorite's the Brendan Aronson move. I think he's going to do really well there. I'm excited to see him at Union Berlin.
What a fun team too. I think we've kind of seen their rise happen so quickly. They finished, I think, third this year in the Bundesliga. Really, really fun stuff to see, especially when Hertha has been going the complete opposite direction as Union Berlin.
Scheisse.
Yeah, to say the least, it is certainly looking like that. Well, also domestically, we have the Leagues Cup going on. This is 47 clubs total, 29 MLS teams, 18 Liga MX teams playing in a new tournament that's designed to include the U.S. and Mexican teams. Looking through the groups real quick, 7 Liga MX teams top their group, including Tigres, Monterrey, Leon, and Pumas. Notable MLS leaders, Brandon, your Columbus Crew over Club America and St. Louis, Chicago Fire over Minnesota and Puebla, Orlando over Houston Dynamo and Santos Laguna, and then Philly, Cincy, Miami also topping their groups. Which brings us to our biggest point I want to make real quick about MLS and the Leagues Cup is Barcelona's retirement home has been built up in Inter Miami. Tata Martino, the old coach, has been hired by Inter Miami, of course, bringing in the biggest signing in MLS history, Lionel Messi, World Cup winner, Argentina legend, Barcelona legend, to say the least. And then also bringing in his good friend Sergio Busquets on a free signing. Now Jordi Alba on a free signing. And we've already seen Messi named as the captain of this team. They topped the group with 2 wins against Cruz Azul and Atlanta United in a 4-0 win. This team looks like they are going to go on a run. And a quick, brief conversation I want to have is Messi's impact enough to see this Miami team actually win and go on and do something this season? What do you guys think?
They could win the Leagues Cup. I'll just say that. It's a tournament, first season. Messi's obviously made a huge impact already. Miami is firing on all cylinders, and I'm excited to see when they play their first away game what happens. Messi on the road is going to be interesting to watch, so I'm excited to see what happens there. They'll probably fly through, though. I think they're going to be good. The season, however, that's going to be like the MLS season. That's going to be a different story, but I think they could win the Leagues Cup.
Steve, new thoughts on Miami?
Yeah, they're good. Messi's really good. But all kidding aside, I think if even other players like Joseph Martinez, like if he gets just an ounce back of any form he had with Atlanta United, like, I mean, you got Messi scoring all the goals, Busquets, Alba, all these other players in the field. this guy has an embarrassment of riches behind him. He better start scoring goals. So they're going to find somebody who will. Hopefully that's the fire under his butt. I want to see Miami do well, and I think they'll do well. I think they'll make a run in the playoffs. I don't think they'll win the MLS, to Brandon's point, but I think the cup tournament style of League's Cup fits them very nicely as well.
Yeah, they have a long way to claw back into getting to contention in the Eastern Conference. When he arrived in Miami, they were last in the Eastern Conference. I just wanted to have a quick conversation. I know we're talking for a while, but thoughts on Miami even getting all these players on one team when we think about MLS's rules financially. How do we see us letting it happen? Are we cool with this or not cool with it? Is basically what I'm getting to.
I'm cool with it.
I think we got our thoughts last episode. So Steve, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it. We've seen Miami break the rules financially before. It's with these free transfers is what it is. That's what happened with Matuidi, right? It's like, is a player actually coming for free, or are they getting money on the side, or are the others incentives that are kind of going underneath the table? So if Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba literally want to play with Lionel Messi for fun, like, that's great. Like, I love that. That's so cool. I think that's a draw to a club. David Beckham, like, this has always been his goal, to attract talent like this. And yeah, go out and sign Messi to this insanely lucrative deal. Go out and spend money. Like we talked about the Saudis going out and getting all these crazy players. Like, take the financial wheels off a little bit, Lee. Like, the restraints off a little bit. Let Atlanta United be linked to, I don't know, like a Kareem Benzema in 2 years, or Ronaldo next year. I don't know. So I think there's balance. You need to have rules set in place, firm rules, strict rules, like knowing the do's and the don'ts. So there's no room for any messiness. But I want to see good players playing MLS. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. I like watching Zlatan Ibrahimovic scoring a volley from 40 yards away. I like that. And I think if it brings a better standard of play out of the typical, prototypical MLS player, I think it's a good thing. Like, I think it's a good thing for the Miami academy players to look around and see David Beckham, Tata Martino, Jordi Alba, Busquets, and Messi. I think that's a good thing. So until it's not a good thing. So, but anyways, that's what I think. I'm excited. I think it's awesome that Miami has all that talent. So hopefully MLS, as they get more eyes on the league from the world, just how Messi will attract those eyes, more money can come in, and we can start seeing bigger games like El Tráfico at the Rose Bowl, or more marketing efforts from the MLS to get bigger. Maybe MLS teams playing in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Like, what? I don't know. So let's just see where this marketing venture can lie for the MLS to get more eyes on the league. I think it's a good thing, though, overall.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it's time for the MLS, just in general, kind of loosen those rules and allow other teams to get in on the party, spending financially. As we talk, Inter Miami, they'll be playing Wednesday night against Orlando City, a Florida matchup in the Leagues Cup. So other games to look at. You got the New York Red Bulls playing New York City. And then let me think, Cincinnati, Nashville. And then those are probably the best ones to be looking out for in the Leagues Cup in the round of 32. But man, guys, that was a great episode to be back on. So good to have all of our supporters back together. If you made it this far, we're grateful to have you back with us to get things back in full swing, especially as we approach the transfer deadline, the Premier League, the knockout stage of the Women's World Cup. We'll have it all for you. Excited to have previews in abundance for you guys to chew on. But today, it has been Cole Carter. It has been Brandon Pasek and Stephen Crow. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Everybody enjoy your week watching all kinds of soccer here, there, and in between. We'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, peace out. See ya.